The holographic display aboard the Craxian warship Fang of Dominion flickered with thousands of intercepted transmissions from the blue-green planet below. Commander Zexkar's clawed hand moved through the images with practiced precision, his scaled face reflecting the pale light of Earth's entertainment broadcasts. "Fascinating," he rumbled, mandibles clicking in amusement. "They create fictional accounts of alien invasions. How prophetic." His 12-foot frame towered over the bridge crew, natural armor plates gleaming under the ship's ambient lighting. In the science bay, xenobiologist Vertak was having a significantly less amusing experience. Her eyes darted between multiple screens, each displaying different aspects of human behavior. Unlike her commander, she wasn't watching their entertainment. She was studying their documentaries, their sports broadcasts, their survival shows. "This can't be right," she muttered, running the calculations again. "They're pursuing prey across 30 kilometers in this heat, without stopping." The footage showed humans in what they called persistence hunting, chasing animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. Another screen showed them surviving in temperatures that would kill most sentient species. A third displayed their wound recovery rates, which defied conventional biological limits. Vertak's report was already longer than any she'd written before, filled with warning flags that her superiors were choosing to ignore. The humans' soft appearance had deceived the Craxian leadership. They saw no claws, no natural armor, no obvious predatory features. But Vertak saw something far more disturbing. She saw adaptation. "Commander," she tried again, sending her 15th urgent message to the bridge. "These beings show unprecedented environmental adaptation capabilities. They colonized nearly every biome on their world. They can survive in temperatures ranging from -50 to +50 degrees Celsius. The message was dismissed without being read. Above her, the invasion fleet was already assembling. In the fleet's war room, General Kravnir addressed his invasion force. "The species calls itself human." He pronounced the word with difficulty. "They are pre-FTL, with primitive projectile weapons and basic space capability. Their planet has significant resources and a strategic position. Standard conquest protocols will be sufficient." The assembled officers clicked their mandibles in agreement, studying the tactical displays. Earth's military capability seemed laughably primitive. Ballistic weapons, chemical propellants, crude atomic devices. Their most advanced aircraft couldn't even reach escape velocity reliably. Only Vertak, watching from the back of the room, noticed what everyone else was missing. In every human conflict video she studied, she saw the same pattern: adaptation, improvisation, and most terrifyingly, rapid technological advancement. Their weapons might be primitive, but they had more variety in military tactics than any species the Craxians had encountered. As the invasion fleet made its final preparations, Vertak made one last attempt to warn them. She sent a comprehensive report to the High Command, detailing everything she'd observed. Humans could repair massive physical damage and continue fighting. They operated effectively with minimal sleep. They had evolved as pursuit predators with unprecedented endurance. They showed extreme environmental adaptability. Their tool use and technological advancement rate was exponential. They had thousands of years of continuous military experience. Most concerning, they seemed to become more effective when threatened. The report was filed away as an academic curiosity. After all, what could a species of soft, clawless creatures possibly do against the apex predators of the galaxy? The invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their sensors immediately beginning detailed scans of Earth's defenses. The humans' primitive detection systems would never see them coming. They wouldn't know they were being hunted until it was too late. In her lab, Vertak watched another human documentary, this one about something they called special forces. She saw them moving through darkness with easy confidence, using tools to see heat signatures. She watched them track targets across impossible terrain, employing what they called asymmetric warfare. As the fleet began its approach to Earth, Vertak made one final log entry. We believe ourselves to be the hunters, but we've never encountered prey that hunts back. These humans, they don't just fight. They pursue. They don't just kill. They study. They don't just conquer. They adapt. We think we're entering their system as predators, but I fear we're about to learn what it means to be prey. The Craxian invasion fleet moved into attack position, their superior technology and natural weapons making them supremely confident. They had conquered dozens of worlds, subjugated hundreds of species. This would be no different. They had no way of knowing they were about to face something unique in the galaxy, a species that had evolved on a death world, that had clawed its way up the food chain through sheer determination and adaptability, that had spent its entire history fighting itself, and thus was prepared for anything. The hunt was about to begin, but not in the way the Craxians expected. The Craxian invasion began during what humans called the Olympics, a gathering that the aliens mistook for primitive tribal competitions. Their first dropships descended on Brisbane, Australia, expecting to find easy targets among the assembled athletes. It was their first mistake of many. Sarah Chen, marathon runner and Olympic gold medalist, was 4 miles into her morning training run when she saw the alien ships descend. Instead of panicking, she did what she'd trained her entire life to do. She ran, but not away from the threat. The Craxians, pursuing what they thought was fleeing prey, followed her directly into the waiting arms of the Australian Special Air Service. Interesting tactics, Lieutenant James Cooper muttered, watching through his scope as Chen led the 12-foot-tall aliens through the predetermined kill zone. They chase like pack hunters, but they're not coordinating. They're letting their instincts override their training. The ambush was devastatingly effective. The Craxians' advanced energy shields, designed to stop plasma weapons and energy beams, proved surprisingly vulnerable to primitive ballistic ammunition. The aliens had forgotten one of war's most basic lessons. Sometimes the old ways work best. Across the city, other athletes turned their skills to warfare with surprising effectiveness. Gymnasts used their agility to outmaneuver the bulky alien power armor in urban environments. Swimmers conducted underwater sabotage operations against alien landing craft in the harbor. Weightlifters proved surprisingly effective at close-quarters combat, their trained bodies able to leverage the alien size against them. Command, this is Drop Point 7. A Craxian officer transmitted, his voice tinged with confusion. The prey, they're not running. They're organizing, fighting back. This isn't in the conquest protocols. In the Olympic Village, Korean archer Park Ji-soo discovered that her carbon fiber arrows could penetrate the gaps in Craxian armor with remarkable precision. Distance to target, 120 meters, she whispered, releasing another shaft. Another alien fell. They never look up. Apex predators always forget to look up. The Craxians' tactical doctrine, perfected over centuries of conquering less aggressive species, began to fall apart. Their assumptions about human behavior proved catastrophically wrong. Humans didn't flee from superior firepower. They adapted to it. They didn't cower in buildings. They turned them into fortresses. They didn't surrender when their leaders were targeted. They operated independently in small, lethal groups. The Brisbane moment, as it would later be known, came when a squad of Australian SAS operators decided to hunt the hunters. Using nothing but conventional tracking techniques, footprints, broken vegetation, heat signatures, they stalked a Craxian patrol through the city's outskirts. Sergeant Mike Thompson, an Aboriginal man who'd learned tracking from his grandfather, led the operation. They're used to being the apex predator, he explained to his team. Makes them careless. They leave signs. They don't check their six. They think they're hunting us. But my people have been reading the land for 60,000 years. The squad followed the aliens for hours, using techniques perfected over millennia of human hunting. They noted disturbed gravel, broken twigs, the way local wildlife went quiet. When they finally struck, it was with the same ruthless efficiency that had once brought down prey on the ancient savanna. The Craxian patrol never knew what hit them. Modern weapons wielded with prehistoric skill. The aliens' advanced combat systems were overwhelmed by techniques older than human civilization. For the first time in their species' history, Craxian warriors were captured alive by their prey. News of the Brisbane operation spread rapidly through both human and Craxian communications. Humans learned that the aliens could be beaten. The Craxians learned fear. Tactical analysis makes no sense. A Craxian commander reported to the fleet. They're using primitive projectile weapons, but with advanced tactical coordination. Their communications are basic, but their unit cohesion is unprecedented. They're adapting to our technology faster than any species we've encountered. This isn't just resistance, it's systematic counter-invasion. By the end of the first day, the Craxians had lost an entire division of their most elite troops. Their shields were useless against primitive weapons. Their tactics were being countered by enemies who had spent their entire history fighting themselves. Their advanced sensors were being fooled by techniques developed to hunt woolly mammoths. In her lab aboard the fleet flagship, Vertak watched the disaster unfold. "We thought their athletic competitions were primitive displays," she noted in her log. "We didn't realize they were maintaining ancient hunting skills. We saw their ceremonial games as a sign of weakness. Instead, they were keeping their predatory instincts sharp. We thought we were invading a world of prey. Instead, we've awakened a planet of hunters." The first day of the invasion was ending, and the Craxians were about to learn that humans were just getting started. They hadn't even begun to show what they could do when truly threatened. The Craxian command ship Eternal Hunter received the helmet footage from Ground Team 6 with growing disbelief. The video showed their elite warriors, genetically engineered apex predators, hiding in an abandoned building while human soldiers methodically swept through the area. "They don't stop," whispered a Craxian warrior, his mandibles clicking nervously. "We wounded 3 of them hours ago. They applied primitive chemical medicines and continued pursuit. How can they continue?" The footage showed human soldiers injecting themselves with stimulants, their bodies pushing far beyond normal endurance limits. When they were tired, they took turns resting while maintaining constant pressure. When they were injured, they used crude but effective battlefield medicine and kept fighting. Commander Zexkar watched another transmission, this one from Paris. His forces had attempted to use darkness as cover, their natural night vision giving them an advantage over most species. Instead, they found humans had mastered the dark through technology, turning it into their ally. "Status report," he demanded. 17 patrols lost in the last 6 hours. His tactical officer responded. "The humans, they're tracking us through heat signatures, footprints, disturbed vegetation. They're using our own hunting methods against us, but with centuries of refined technique." The command center fell silent as they watched live feeds from around the globe. In Siberia, human soldiers pursued Craxian units across frozen tundra, seemingly immune to the cold that should have stopped them. In the Sahara, desert warfare specialists tracked alien patrols through the burning sands, outlasting them in the deadly heat. "This isn't possible," Zexkar muttered. "Their bodies should break. Their resolve should shatter. Why don't they understand they're facing superior predators?" A particularly disturbing report came from New York City. A Craxian unit had barricaded themselves in a skyscraper, certain they could hold off the primitive humans. They were wrong. Human SWAT teams, drawing on generations of urban combat experience, systematically cleared the building floor by floor. They didn't rush, didn't grow impatient. They just kept coming, hour after hour, with mechanical precision. "Sir," a junior officer called out, his voice shaking. "We've intercepted human communications. They're sharing our tactical data globally. Every encounter with our forces is being analyzed, weaknesses identified. They're learning our patterns." The psychological impact on the Craxian forces was devastating. They had never experienced being hunted, never known what it was like to be prey. Their entire society was built around being the galaxy's ultimate predators. Now they were learning what all prey species knew: the constant stress of being hunted, The nerve-wracking knowledge that somewhere, someone was always watching, waiting, pursuing. Vertak, monitoring from her lab, recognized what was happening. "We're experiencing prey psychology," she reported. "Our warriors are showing signs of constant stress, paranoia, fatigue. The humans aren't just fighting us, they're wearing us down mentally. It's their ancestral hunting technique, persistence predation. They never stop, never give up. They keep coming until their prey exhausts itself physically and mentally." The breaking point came 3 weeks into the invasion. A Craxian patrol in Moscow transmitted their final message. "They're in the walls, in the ceilings. We can hear them moving but never see them. They've studied how we fight, how we think. Our sensors show nothing, but we know they're there. Always there, always hunting, always." The transmission ended in static. What terrified the Craxian High Command wasn't just the loss of their forces, it was how the humans were doing it. They weren't winning through superior technology or strength. They were winning through sheer, relentless determination, using skills honed over thousands of years of hunting and warfare. The final shock came when intelligence reported the humans had already reverse-engineered several pieces of Craxian technology. In just 3 weeks, they had prototype plasma weapons in production. Their adaptation rate was beyond anything the Craxians had ever encountered. Emergency evacuation of all ground forces, Zexkar finally ordered, his pride shattered. "We cannot sustain these losses. The humans, they're not prey. They're something else. Something worse. They're what happens when prey learns to hunt back." As the Craxian forces began their desperate retreat from Earth's surface, they discovered one final, terrifying truth. The humans had no intention of letting them escape. The hunters were about to become the hunted on a scale they never imagined possible. It started with a teenager's laptop in Seoul. Kim Min-ji, a 16-year-old coding prodigy, had been examining captured Craxian communication devices when she noticed something familiar about their encryption patterns. "They're using a quantum-based system," she wrote in a hastily composed post on GitHub, "but the underlying architecture is similar to blockchain technology. We can crack this." Within hours, hackers worldwide were collaborating on the problem. The Craxians had never encountered a species that practiced constant, global information warfare against itself. They weren't prepared for billions of civilian computers attempting to breach their security simultaneously. The first crack appeared 3 days later. A group of Indian cybersecurity experts found a backdoor in the Craxian communication protocols. Hours later, Russian hackers exploited it. By the end of the week, the aliens' secure communications were being broadcast on public internet channels. "They never expected us to understand their technology so quickly," Dr. Sarah Hamilton explained during an emergency UN briefing. "Their species evolved as physical predators. They never developed our level of information warfare capability because they never needed it. Their entire civilization is built on physical dominance, not technological adaptation." The internet erupted with leaked Craxian tactical manuals, biological weaknesses, and shield frequencies. Amateur radio operators coordinated global resistance movements, sharing information faster than the aliens could adapt. Every defeat of the Craxians was analyzed, documented, and the data distributed globally. But the real turning point came from humanity's industrial base. Factories that had been producing cars began manufacturing armored vehicles designed to counter Craxian weapons. Smartphone manufacturers repurposed their facilities to create portable shield detectors. Three-dimensional printing networks churned out components for reverse-engineered alien technology. "Their industrial doctrine is impossible," a Craxian analyst reported frantically. "They're converting peaceful industries to military production in days, not years. Their entire civilization is designed for rapid adaptation." In NASA's Johnson Space Center, engineers worked frantically to integrate stolen Craxian shield technology with existing human spacecraft. SpaceX and Blue Origin voluntarily released their proprietary technologies to the global defense effort. Nations that had been bitter rivals weeks ago were now sharing their most closely guarded military secrets. The Craxians watched in growing horror as their primitive prey demonstrated industrial and technological capabilities far beyond their expectations. Humans weren't just fighting back. They were innovating at a pace that defied alien understanding. "You have to understand," Vertak explained to the increasingly desperate Craxian High Command. "Their entire history is based on adaptation and technological advancement. They went from primitive flight to landing on their moon in just 66 years. Their technological growth isn't linear, it's exponential." The decisive moment came when a modified SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket, equipped with reverse-engineered Craxian shields, executed what humans called a kamikaze run against the alien flagship Eternal Hunter. The Craxians, accustomed to space combat at long ranges with energy weapons, were completely unprepared for a species willing to ram ships together in space. The human pilot's last transmission was picked up on all frequencies, from humanity with love. The resulting explosion destroyed both ships and marked humanity's first major victory in space combat. Analysis of human historical records shows this is a common tactic for them. A Craxian military advisor reported nervously, "They've been ramming ships together in combat for thousands of years. We never considered they'd apply ancient naval tactics to space warfare." The Craxian fleet, already struggling with ground losses, now faced a species that was rapidly adapting to space combat. Human vessels, crude but effectively shielded, began appearing in increasing numbers. They fought with desperate courage and unpredictable tactics, using centuries of maritime combat experience in new ways. "They're not just copying our technology," Vertak observed. "They're improving it. Their shields are less efficient than ours, but they're using them in ways we never considered. They're combining our advanced technology with their primitive weapons in ways that shouldn't work, but somehow do." As the fourth week of invasion ended, humanity had achieved what the Craxians had believed impossible. They had not only survived first contact with a superior species, they were pushing them back. The tide of war had turned, and the Craxians were about to learn that humans didn't just fight wars, they won them. The Craxian fleet retreated to the dark side of the moon, expecting a brief respite to regroup and repair. Instead, they found themselves facing a new kind of psychological warfare that touched their deepest instincts. It began with the sounds. Human broadcasting stations, now equipped with Craxian communication technology, bombarded the alien fleet with carefully chosen audio, wolf howls echoing across space, lion roars amplified to reach their ships, and most disturbingly, human war cries from every culture on Earth. They're not just making noise, Vertak realized, studying the transmissions. They're specifically choosing predator sounds that resonate with our ancestral memory patterns, sounds that we, as hunters, instinctively recognize as threats. The psychological assault was only the beginning. Human ships, now equipped with hybrid technology, appeared seemingly at random. They would strike quickly, disable or destroy a Craxian vessel, then vanish into the lunar shadows before a response could be mounted. Admiral Chen of the newly formed Earth Defense Fleet had based these tactics on ancient Chinese military strategist Sun Tzu. Supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. The humans weren't just attacking the Craxian fleet. They were eroding their confidence, their sense of superiority, their very identity as apex predators. "They're hurting us," a Craxian tactical officer realized with growing horror. "Each attack pushes us in a specific direction. They're using our own hunting techniques against us, but on a stellar scale." The officer was right. Human ships, operating in what they called wolf pack formations, were systematically cutting off escape routes and resources. The Craxian fleet found itself being pushed into increasingly restricted space, their options dwindling with each passing hour. Captain Sarah O'Connor, commanding the hybrid warship HS Persistence, explained the strategy to her crew. "We're doing exactly what our ancestors did on the African savanna. We're not trying to outfight them. We're wearing them down. Every hour they spend watching for us is an hour they're not resting. Every jump they make burns fuel they can't replace. The humans had another advantage that terrified the Craxians. They could function effectively on minimal sleep. While alien crews grew increasingly exhausted and paranoid, human ships operated in rotating shifts, maintaining constant pressure. Their endurance defies biological limits, a Craxian medical officer reported. They can remain combat effective with only 1/3 of their normal sleep cycle. Some of them are using chemical stimulants to stay alert for days at a time. When the Craxian fleet finally attempted a desperate faster-than-light jump to their nearest outpost, they discovered the humans had anticipated this too. Centuries of naval pursuit tactics, developed for oceanic warfare, had been adapted for space combat with devastating effectiveness. Calculate every possible escape vector, Admiral Chen had ordered. Think like a cornered predator. Where would you run? Human ships were waiting at every likely emergence point, ready to continue the pursuit. The Craxian leadership, watching their mighty fleet being systematically hunted down by what they had considered primitive prey, intercepted a transmission that chilled them to their core. Earth's nations had agreed to share their most advanced technology and classified research, demonstrating unprecedented cooperation. "We've made a terrible mistake," Vertak transmitted to the High Command. "We thought their divided nature was a weakness. Instead, it drove them to develop countless different ways of fighting. Now they're combining all of that knowledge against us." The pursuit continued relentlessly. Human ships, despite their technological disadvantages, demonstrated an uncanny ability to track Craxian vessels through faster-than-light travel. They had centuries of experience hunting submarines through ocean depths, and space, they discovered, wasn't so different. "They don't stop," a Craxian commander transmitted before his ship was disabled. "They don't get discouraged. They've turned the entire solar system into a hunting ground. And we're the prey. How can they be so primitive and yet so deadly?" The answer, as Vertak had tried to warn them from the beginning, lay in humanity's unique evolution. They had developed not just as predators, but as persistence hunters. They didn't need to be the strongest or fastest. They just needed to be the most relentless. As the great pursuit continued, the Craxian fleet began to disintegrate. Some ships surrendered, their crews broken by the constant pressure. Others made desperate, doomed attempts to escape. All of them learned what it meant to be hunted by humanity. The predators had become the prey, and their hunters were just getting started. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stared at the decoded Craxian database with a mixture of awe and disbelief. The holographic display in the United Nations Emergency Command Center showed what the aliens had known about Earth all along. "Earth is classified as a Class 13 death world," she announced to the assembled military leaders. According to their records, only 0.01% of habitable planets in the galaxy have conditions this extreme. "We've been thinking we're normal. We're not. We're the monsters." The revelation sent shockwaves through human civilization. The Craxian database revealed that what humans considered normal was, by galactic standards, almost impossibly harsh. Earth's gravity was twice the galactic average for inhabited worlds. What humans considered normal atmospheric pressure would crush most sentient species. The temperature swings between seasons would kill most space-faring races. Even Earth's oxygen levels were considered dangerously toxic by galactic standards. "Look at these environmental readings," Colonel Jackson pointed to the data. "What we consider a pleasant spring day would be considered survival conditions on most worlds. We've been training our military in what they classify as extreme hazard environments, just for fun." The Craxian scientists had noted with horror that humans deliberately sought out dangerous conditions for recreation. Mountain climbing, deep-sea diving, skydiving. Activities humans considered sports were classified as suicidal behavior in their database. Vertak, now working with human scientists after her capture, provided further insight. "Your species evolved in conditions that would kill most sentient life. You don't just survive in these conditions, you thrive in them. You seek them out. You turned them into challenges to overcome. The database revealed another startling fact. Humans were the only known species to have evolved as persistence predators. Other predator species relied on superior strength, speed, or natural weapons. Humans had developed the ability to pursue prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, a hunting strategy that required unprecedented endurance and problem-solving abilities. This explains their reaction to our medical capabilities, Dr. Chen noted, reviewing the data. What we consider basic first aid, they classify as miraculous healing. Our ability to continue fighting after injury isn't just unusual, it's terrifying to them. In NASA's newly established Xenotechnology division, engineers made another breakthrough. By combining captured Croxian technology with human ingenuity, they had developed their first faster-than-light prototype. We've improved their design, Dr. Mohand explained, pointing to the modifications. They built their ships for efficiency. We're building them for durability. They never considered operating their drives in these configurations because no other species could survive the gravitational stresses. But for us, it's no worse than a roller coaster. The Craxian High Command watched in growing horror as their classified technology database was not just decoded but improved upon. Humans weren't just copying their technology. They were reimagining it, pushing it to limits the Craxians had never considered possible. They're adapting our technology to match their insane tolerances, a Craxian engineer reported. They're building ships that would kill any normal crew just from the G-forces, and they're doing it all with a primitive industrial base we thought would take centuries to achieve spaceflight. The final piece of the puzzle came from the Craxian Historical Archives. Earth had been discovered centuries ago, but was classified as too dangerous to approach. The high gravity, extreme weather, and deadly wildlife had earned it the designation "Do Not Contact." The Craxian invasion fleet had ignored these warnings, believing their modern technology made them invulnerable. We're not just another primitive species, General Martinez addressed the United Nations. We're what happens when intelligence evolves on a world that tries to kill you every day. We're what you get when a species has to become smart enough to survive conditions that would destroy most life forms. As humanity prepared to take its first steps into the galaxy, they did so with a new understanding of their place in it. They weren't the weakest species trying to catch up to advanced civilizations. They were the survivors of a death world, the descendants of hunters who had never stopped pushing their limits. The Craxian fleet, now in full retreat, had made a fatal error. They hadn't just given faster-than-light technology to a primitive species. They had given it to a species of space-faring persistence hunters who had evolved in conditions that would kill most sentient life. And humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly what that meant. The human fleet split into what Admiral Chen called wolf packs, a hunting strategy taken from Earth's World War I submarine warfare. Each group of ships operated independently, coordinating through encrypted channels using techniques perfected during centuries of naval combat. Captain Sarah O'Connor's Wolfpack, designated Hunter Group Alpha, tracked their prey through the asteroid belt. Her crew had adapted mining techniques to navigate the dense field, using the rocks for cover in ways the Craxian ships couldn't match. They relied too much on their sensors, she noted in her combat log. We're using old-school astronomical navigation combined with their technology. When they jam our advanced systems, we fall back on techniques that would have been familiar to 18th-century sailors. The Craxian fleet was witnessing something unprecedented. Humanity's most terrifying trait, the ability to learn from their enemies. Human ships now moved with Craxian tactical precision, but maintained human unpredictability. They had absorbed the aliens' technology and doctrine, then improved upon them in ways the Craxians had never imagined. They're hunting us the way their ancestors hunted on their death world. Vertac transmitted to the retreating Craxian ships. They've learned our strengths and weaknesses. They've adapted their primitive warfare techniques to space combat. And most terrifyingly, they're enjoying it. She wasn't wrong. Across the solar system, human crews demonstrated an almost predatory enthusiasm for the chase. Teams of analysts worked around the clock, studying every encounter, identifying patterns, developing countermeasures. The learning curve wasn't just steep, it was nearly vertical. The Craxian dreadnought Storm of Dominion found itself pursued by Hunter Group Beta through the moons of Jupiter. The human ships used the complex gravitational fields to slingshot themselves at speeds that should have torn their vessels apart. Impossible maneuvers, the Craxian captain reported. Their ships are too primitive to withstand these stresses. Their crews should be dead from the G-forces, but they keep coming, using natural phenomena as weapons in ways we never considered. The hunt continued relentlessly. Human ships, operating in shifts, maintained constant pressure on the fragmenting Craxian fleet. When one wolf pack needed to rest or resupply, another seamlessly took up the pursuit. The aliens learned what it meant to be hunted by persistence predators in 3 dimensions. We're not just fighting them. A Craxian tactical officer observed with horror. We're teaching them. Every engagement makes them more dangerous. They're evolving their tactics in real time. The Craxian Empire received transmissions showing their mighty invasion fleet being systematically dismantled by creatures they had considered prey. Human ships, despite their technological disadvantages, demonstrated an uncanny ability to anticipate Craxian tactics. Your mistake, Admiral Chen transmitted to the Craxian flagship, was thinking technology alone makes a species powerful. We've spent our entire history fighting ourselves, developing countless ways to win against superior forces. Now we're combining all of that knowledge with your technology. The final phase of the hunt demonstrated humanity's mastery of asymmetric warfare. Smaller human vessels deliberately drew out Craxian ships, separating them from their fleet. Once isolated, these ships found themselves surrounded by waiting wolf packs that had predicted their escape routes. Standard pursuit doctrine failing. The last Craxian battle group reported. They're not fighting like a spacefaring species. They're fighting like pack hunters who learn to build spaceships. Every time we adapt to their tactics, they switch to something completely different. The last major engagement occurred in the Kuiper Belt. The remaining Craxian dreadnought, pride of the hunt, found itself cornered by 3 human wolf packs. The aliens watched in disbelief as human ships coordinated with perfect precision, cutting off every escape route. You fought well, Captain O'Connor transmitted to the surrounded vessel. But you made one crucial mistake. You thought being an apex predator was about being the strongest. We learned long ago that it's about being the most adaptable. As the human fleet closed in on their final prey, the galaxy received an unmistakable message. Humanity wasn't just another species reaching for the stars. They were Death World survivors who had brought their hunting strategies into space. The predators had become the prey, and the hunt was almost over. The surrender of the Craxian flagship Pride of the Hunt marked a turning point in galactic history. But what followed surprised not just the Craxians, but many humans as well. Humanity demonstrated another unique trait, the ability to show mercy to a defeated enemy. We're not going to destroy you. Admiral Chen transmitted to the surrounded Craxian vessels. We're going to do something far more interesting. We're going to teach you. The integration process began cautiously. Craxian prisoners expected execution or torture, standard practices in their society for defeated enemies. Instead, they found themselves participating in cultural exchange programs, learning about the species they had tried to conquer. Dr. Elena Rodriguez led the rehabilitation initiative. Their society is built entirely around being apex predators, she explained to the UN Security Council. We're showing them their strength and cooperation, in lifting others up rather than pushing them down. Vertak, now serving as the chief liaison between species, observed the process with fascination. Humans are teaching us their pack hunting techniques, showing us how coordination and teamwork multiply force beyond mere individual strength. It's revolutionizing our entire cultural paradigm. The galaxy watched in astonishment as former Craxian warriors began serving alongside humans in mixed crews. Their natural combat abilities, combined with human innovation and tactical flexibility, proved to be a formidable combination. The first test of this new partnership came sooner than expected. A notorious band of space pirates, believing Earth would be weakened after the war, attempted to raid a human colony ship. They found themselves facing something unprecedented: human and Craxian ships working in perfect coordination. The pirates never stood a chance. Captain O'Connor, now commanding a mixed-species crew, recorded in her log. Our Craxian gunners provided the precision. Our human tactical officers provided the unpredictability. We're combining the best of both species. Earth's emergence as a galactic power wasn't marked by conquest or dominion, but by something the galaxy had never seen before: a death world species using their predatory instincts for protection rather than subjugation. We're offering something unique, General Martinez explained to the first delegation of alien species seeking Earth's protection. We're not conquering. We're not demanding submission. We're offering partnership. You bring your knowledge, we bring our strength. Together, we're more than the sum of our parts. The Craxian Empire, watching their former prey become a rising power, made an unprecedented decision. Their formal surrender wasn't just an admission of defeat, it was a request for alliance. We've learned something profound from humans. The Craxian High Commander addressed the United Nations. True strength isn't about being the apex predator. It's about building connections, about turning potential enemies into allies. We were conquerors. They've shown us how to be protectors. Humanity's influence spread rapidly through the galaxy. Species that had lived in fear of Craxian expansion now found themselves under the protection of an unusual partnership. The relentless survivors of a death world working alongside their former invaders. It's changing the entire galactic paradigm, Vertak observed in her final report. Humans aren't just teaching us new ways to fight. They're teaching us new ways to live. They're showing us that being a predator species doesn't mean we have to be conquerors. The final scene played out in Earth's orbit as the first graduating class of the Mixed Species Defense Force received their commissions. Human and Craxian officers stood side by side, their ships ready to patrol trade routes and protect peaceful species. "We've come full circle," Admiral Chen remarked at the ceremony. "We proved we could be the ultimate predators, but we chose to be something more. We're not just hunters anymore, we're guardians." As Earth's influence continued to grow, the galaxy learned a profound truth. The most dangerous predators weren't those who lived only to hunt. The most dangerous predators were those who had learned to turn their hunting instincts toward protection, their aggression toward defense, their strength toward lifting others up. The age of the lone apex predator was over. The age of the cooperative pack had begun, and humanity was leading the way into this new era, one alliance at a time. The hunt had ended, but humanity's true journey was just beginning.